Bobby.
My first experience with drag, I mean, honestly, I remember being young and watching the Sally Jesse Raphael show, and this was like in the early '90s. It was the reign of the club kid, and I just remember like these club kids, people like Amanda Lepore and people like that, like coming on to the show and just thinking, like seeing them and thinking like that is what I want to be, like that sort of expression of beauty and outrageousness and just like sort of. I think what I really appreciated was the idea that it was so in your face and so unapologetic and so just beautiful in its own way. And then of course Tu Wong Fu came out, and I did make my parents drag me. I dragged my parents to the movie theater like I don't even know 8 times to see it, and I mean I was just obsessed. So those are my first influences. But as far as like first like person that I actually met, of course I remember going to T-Shack back when Heclina was still doing that at the Stud. But the first person that I ever met that had an influence on me was this fabulous queen, and her name was Nikki Starr. And I met her at the Marlena's, which was a bar in Hayes Valley. It was around forever. It's not there anymore, but it was a fabulous bar, and it's where a lot of like members of the imperial court and stuff hung out and were at all the time. But Nikki was just she was very kind to me, and I just remember she had a very larger than life personality that I really enjoyed. So
yeah. Awesome. Ashley or the Dragon King?
I can go. I didn't know that drag kings existed until about college. I did know that queens existed. I actually remember when I was growing up, one of my still close friends from high school was in love with Peaches Christ. And I'm so sad I didn't get to see her perform live when I was in high school. But I knew she was in the Rocky Horror community, which I was already obsessed with Rocky Horror. I knew she did like horror type drag, and there was just something about that I knew that there were that drag queens were a thing, and that they would do accentuated femininity. But seeing like this person with like chopped off titties, it just scratched an itch in my brain. And God, if young me knew that I now do terror vaults with Peaches Christ, like I think I would not have believed that. So she has been a huge influence in my life, and she's the just warmest, best employer I've ever had. I'm gonna be real, like has always been accommodating to my disabilities. Very lovely. In terms of the first drag king, I binged watched videos of Spiky Van Dyke and a few others, but the first drag king that I actually met in real life is my drag father, Vera. I went to a Rebel Kings of Oakland show, and there was just this happy ball of energy bouncing around, being like, "Hello, baby angels! Wow, wow, wow!" I'm gazing. Such positivity. Ended up being my trainer for the National LGBT Hotline, and that's how we really like bonded, because they were the one who taught me how to be a peer counselor for LGBT people all across the country. And like, that's how we bonded. That's how we started talking more. And I am blessed to be their 13th child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Vera's fruitful. Extremely so.
Yeah.
And I've just so like, between the like spoopy influences from Peaches, the just positivity and like instilled family goals to give back to the community, be a positive influence, and like help as many people as possible. And just all the influences from my very extensive drag family has been like just this beautiful thing that I greatly cherish.
Yes, Vera is amazing.
Yes.
Love Vera.
Yes, yes. Ashley?
Yeah, coming out in the 90s in New York, downtown West Village, my very best friend and I were walking through the village, being our young, immature selves, 16, 17 years old, seeing drag queens, and just sort of like giggling and being silly because we didn't understand it all. It was our first time to the village. But after a couple of trips back, we went to a bar in the village called Two Potato, where they had drag shows. A very small bar. They had drag shows, and this beautiful, tall, slender queen was performing, and she was doing "Meet Me on the Moon" by Phyllis Hyman. And I was so drawn to her. She had on this green dress and she was just captivating. She had this short bob on. And I knew there was something different about her, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And obviously I learned years later she was a trans performer. So she was a Black trans performer. And as a kid, I just didn't get it, but I was so connected with her in that moment. And I didn't have the words to describe how I was feeling, except now I can just say, to me, that was a spiritual experience. And there was something that connected me with her, that I was connected with, that years later, now I understand why. As a Black non-binary performer, I totally get it, but I will never forget that moment. It was so beautiful. And I think it sort of led me on the path that I am on today.
Mm-hmm.